Newport City Council meeting is called to order for Monday night, May 19th, starting at 6 p.m. We are in the council chambers as previously warned. Present, besides myself, we have President Kevin Charbonneau, Councilmember Carter Finnegan, Councilmember John Manette, Councilmember Andrew Touchette, Clerk Treasurer James Johnson, and in the room from city staff, we've got Tom Bernier, Director of Public Works. And we've got a full agenda tonight. So we're just going to launch in. Oh, I should say we also have Mariah Smith with us for at least the beginning of the meeting from our attorneys at SPNF. So, first item on the agenda is additions and deletions. I'll start one by one and just ask if there are any additions or deletions, starting with you, Kevin.
None, thank you.
None?
No. None, thanks.
No, thank you. Carter? None from any of you? Jim?
No.
Okay, I have several. Yeah, it's been that kind of day. Welcome, everybody. So the first thing I want to do is actually, with your permission, is move item 7, the partial settlement proposal of the Jennifer Burling lawsuit. I'd like to move that to item number 4, immediately following the consent agenda, in order that we can minimize the time of our paid counsel this evening. So that would become our new item 4. The second thing I'd like to do is add a new item, which would become item 5. And I'll just say before I do this that this is unusual. I've been trying hard, and I will continue to try hard, not to add items at the last minute that include a special or an executive session. But this one is time sensitive, so I'm going to ask for approval to add this agenda item, which I will read now, and Jim has a copy for the minutes of this proposal. It would be as to ask for an executive session for the approval of 4 seasonal hires and 1 requested personnel change of an existing personnel person to fill a vacant city position in DPW, to be brought to us by the Director of Public Works as per 1 VSA Section 313A3. And I would propose that we add that immediately following the session, the executive session, the new item number 4. Okay. There are a couple of other things that I think can easily fall under new or old business, so I think these are the only additions. I have no deletion. Oh, there may be a deletion. Andrew tells me that it's possible that Chief Lacoste will not be able to join us this evening as requested. So when we get to that, we'll put it off till the end of the meeting if necessary, and if he doesn't make it, we'll let it go. Okay, any questions about those? Hearing none, I'll ask if there is a motion to accept that change in the order and the addition of an executive session to the agenda this evening.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any comment from members of council? Any comment from members of the community? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it, and the motion to add and change those 2 items is approved. Thank you. That's probably the most stressful thing I'm going to have to handle on the agenda tonight. So we'll move from there to the consent agenda. This will include the following items: approval of the minutes from the 5th of May, 2025, approval of 3 sets of AP warrants from the 9th, the 12th, and the 16th of May, approval of the PR warrants from the 15th of May, and then under liquor licenses, vendor permits, and special events, we have a request that was published in the packet from the Lunchbox, which is a program of Green Mountain Farm to School, 1 related to Family Dollar, and 1 related to Sweet Snow Concessions. So those are the entirety of the items before us in the consent agenda. Are there any items that would demand greater deliberation that you'd like to pull from the consent agenda?
I have a silly question about the Family Dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Is that for that building right there and it's vacant?
They're going into a plaza.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I was just, okay.
Thank you, Jim. I actually wondered about that too. It's a great question. Any other questions about the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from the President of the Council. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Mr. Touchette. Any further comment on the consent agenda? comments from the community? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, and the consent agenda passes in its entirety. Thank you. Okay, our next item is the item that was listed as number 7, which I have asked us to move forward on the consent agenda. And I'm hoping that one of you have the correct language that I distributed earlier in front of you for the 2 motions that it will take to get us into executive session. Does anybody have that handy? I can bring it up on my computer if necessary. I did.
Okay,
I think I have it.
Do you have it there, Kevin?
I have it.
Great.
I move that the council find that premature general public knowledge about a proposed settlement with the city and related attorney-client communications would clearly place the council at a substantial disadvantage by disclosing negotiation strategy and privileged communications with the city attorney related to ongoing litigation.
I have a motion. Thank you, John. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any comment? Any concern from the community? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. And John, do you have a second motion for us, please?
Yes. I move that the council enter executive session to consider Jennifer Merling's settlement proposal and receive confidential advice from the city attorney related thereto, and invite the city attorney and the city clerk to join the council in executive session.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any further comment or question about that? Any comment from the community? Hearing none, we are in executive session. Please. Welcome. Glad you're here. Kevin, have you got a copy of the agenda?
Of the agenda, yes.
You got it?
I printed it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we ready, Pam? Jim, you're back on? Okay, we are out of executive session. No action was taken. Go ahead, Jim.
I move the council to find that at the city council meeting of September 11, 2023, after the city council came out of executive session, the mayor asked, quote, "May I have a motion to make an offer to appoint a city manager," close quote. Alderman Wilson moved, quote, "that we make the next city manager Karen Garrity," close quote. That motion was seconded by Chris Vachon, and the motion carried. At the city council meeting of September 18, 2023, Alderman Wilson moved to amend the motion passed on September 11, 2023, to appoint Karen Garrity city manager, so that it now reads that Mr. Wilson moved to extend Karen Garrity an offer of appointment to the office of city manager. That motion was seconded by Alderman Curtis, and the motion carried. Next, Mr. Wilson moved to amend the minutes of September 11, 2023 to reflect the amended motion. That motion was seconded by Alderman Curtis, and the motion carried. The motion to amend the minutes was improper because it caused the minutes to fail to provide a true indication of the business of the September 11, 2023 council meeting, which in turn confuses the record of the subsequent amendment of the September 11, 2023 motion at the September 18, 2023 council meeting. And therefore, given these findings, so as to be in compliance with 1 VSA section 312B1, I move that the council amend its approval of the September 11, 2023 council meeting minutes to correct the minutes of the September 11, 2023 council meeting, to provide a true indication of the business of the September 11, 2023 council meeting by reference to the findings of this motion, open paren, to be stated in full in the minutes of this meeting, close paren, and authorize the clerk to annotate the record approved minutes of the September 11, 2023 council meeting with a marginal note next to the entry under quote, interview and discussion regarding potential candidates for city manager position, 1 VSA Section 313A3, close quote, with the following, quote, the minutes of this entry were corrected at the City Council's May 19, 2025 council meeting so that this entry reads, Mr. Wilson moved that we make the next city manager Karen Garrity, seconded by Mr. Vachon, and the motion carried. See the minutes of the council's May 19, 2025 council meeting for the corrected record of the council action, close quote.
Quite a mouthful. Thank you, John. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any comment by members of the council?
No.
Any comment or question by members of the community? Go ahead, Ann.
I'm just unclear about what we're saying. Does it still stand that Karen Garrity was only extended an offer at the second meeting, and that at the second meeting they decided that they did not wish to have her as city manager? Is that my understanding, is what we're saying now,
So,
of what you're saying?
if I understand your question correctly, my answer would be that this action by the council tries to state what actually took place in the most careful way possible. It does not change the decision ultimately made by the council. It simply changes the record of how the decisions took place.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, which I will not repeat, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the one that I asked to have added this evening. It's a motion, no, it's just a motion to go into executive session. So we're asking for, I'm just going to offer some proposed language and then see if there's a motion to go into executive session. This motion would be to go into executive session to consider the approval of 4 seasonal hires and 1 other requested personnel change to fill a vacant city position in DPW to be brought by the Director of Public Works as per 1 VSA Section 313A3. And if I have a motion and a second, I'll speak to it briefly.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second.
And just to be clear, the Director of Public Works is invited to.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. We're inviting Tom Bernier into that session along with the council members and mayor. And I'll just say, this is similar to the work we've now done several times. The council moved back in January, I believe it was, that council needed to approve any hirings and firings in the absence of a city manager. So this is simply to make sure that we're in compliance even as we hire for seasonal positions for the summer. So it's not dissimilar from what we've done the last several. I don't expect it to take very long. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any comment from the council or from the community? Hearing none, all those in favor of going into executive session for this purpose, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries and we are in executive session. Okay, we're back in business. Pam, you're all set? Thank you. Okay, we are out of executive session, and I'll invite one of the council members to make a motion.
I would like
No, I'm sorry, I should say, no action was taken in executive session.
I would like to make the motion that we move forward with a request from for DPW to hire 4 seasonal workers and then to fill a vacant DPW position with a current staff member internally.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments from council members? Any comments or questions from the community? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, the motion carries. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, can you bring up the tiny art and share it? All right, the next thing on our agenda is a presentation from Newport Downtown Development volunteer Robin Middy. And I'll invite Robin to come forward. We don't have a mic anymore. We're kind of stopped messing with that. But if you could just stand kind of here.
I can talk loud.
I'm sure you can with your best teacher voice,
I
Robin.
will do that.
And hold on just a second, make sure that Carter's got us up and running.
This is the best I can do.
And that's being shared.
Yes.
Okay, so you tell us when you want to move it forward.
Okay. Good evening, council members. Thank you so much for having me, even though you probably didn't know it was happening. My name is Robin Meady. I am a community member, and I'm an artist, and I am also an art educator. And I am here today to talk to you guys about a project that the Tiny Art Committee is brainstorming right now in hopes of bringing it to downtown Newport. So the Tiny Art Committee is a committee that just recently formed. There are 4 of us as the central members, and then there's others that we brought in to sort of help us along our way. The committee is comprised of Mike Stanley, Marlena Valenta, me, and Karina Van Dever. We are all various members of the larger Newport community, all artists and active community members. And so this project was inspired by a project that originated in Gallup, New Mexico, and it became really popular within that community. So Gallup, New Mexico is a city slightly larger than Newport, Vermont, and a few years ago they were looking at ways of revitalizing their downtown, bringing sort of more interest to their downtown area in a way that was inexpensive and something that could be done relatively quickly. And they came up with this idea of creating tiny art projects all along their city. And they enlisted local artists to kind of create these various pieces that were then installed in various places along their downtown area. And then they actually created a Google map that people could then access and then follow the trail of these tiny art exhibits and move their way throughout the downtown, which became kind of a focal point of their downtown section and became a really almost sort of destination area for Gallup, New Mexico, which prior to that point wasn't really on the map in terms of New Mexico, which has a very vibrant art scene as a state. And so it was sort of a way to kind of do a very small thing to bring some interest and some focus to the downtown committee. And these are some examples of photos that they had done. Okay. So why tiny art? Why are we wanting to do something like this in a similar vein here in downtown Newport? For several reasons. One, it enhances the vibrancy of our community. Newport's beautiful in general, and in our summertime setting, it's even more beautiful because we have a beautiful Parks Department and Rec Committee that creates beautiful flowers, and there's a lot of vibrancy downtown too. So this is just another way to sort of enhance and also bring together a sense of community. It supports local artists. We have an extremely active visual arts community here in our area. There are a lot of active visual artists and performers and things like that as well, but and a lot of budding artists as well. The school has an incredible arts program, and there are a lot of students kind of looking to get their foot in the door as well. So it encourages exploration. We have a vibrant history here in Newport as well, and we've got a lot of really interesting buildings and historical facts and things like that. So it brings a lot of just interest and curiosity to our downtown area. It fosters a community connection and promotes Newport's unique character. The total budget we are looking for is $3,000, paid for by grant, so it is no expense to the city itself. The idea is that we will identify 6 different sites to start out with, and then based on the size of the project, we would dole out that money to artists based on the size and the scale of the work that they're doing, and it would be sort of a collective agreement on what we would be willing to award each individual artist based on their needs as well. Along with those things, it also increases foot traffic and enhances our cultural experiences. The idea is to, as I said, 6 sites. So the idea hopefully is to get 6 different artists, but depending on the size of the project, there may be artists that overlap as well. So, and then the idea is simply that we want to expand this, if it is successful, to the larger Newport City, including East Main, the waterfront area, things like that as well, if it is successful. And then also to support positive social media engagement. We can link our own Google Maps to this. We can do sort of a, scavenger hunt type thing, a way of kind of getting people more active and engaged in our city's website as well. Project implementation. So right now we are in the stages of selecting possible locations for these projects. The Tiny Art Committee has spent the last couple of weeks kind of identifying various spots throughout the city that we think might be reasonable places to put a small artwork. June will be the artist selection process, so by then we hope to have these spots identified and make them available to the public so that they can sort of brainstorm ideas for these things and submit their proposals. July would be the creation of the artwork. We've sort of been coming up with ideas as well around how would we maybe bring community involvement and interest into the actual artist creation of the work. And the hope is that maybe we can have some sort of celebration when the artists actually come in and install the work themselves. Things we're kind of playing around with in our minds, but just actually having the actual installation be part of the process of this committee, of this entire project. And then again, a public launch for that. Our hope is that the Tiny Art Committee itself would be able to do something with the fence and do sort of an installation project ourselves to begin with, hopefully within the next month or so, just to get people's awareness of the project and interest in the project itself. So we're not quite sure what that will look like yet. It's an evolving process, but we're interested. Okay, proposed locations that we've come up with are, the fence would be ours to start with, so kind of looking at something to maybe bring some artwork to that as well to start with, just to bring interest. And then we're also looking at the lower lot by the gateway. There's sort of an empty billboard there that could be a spot for a potential mural. We're looking at the bike rack in front of the Green Mountain National Food Store, the electric box by Pasumsic Bank. Good, Carter. The Gardner Park entranceway, fire hydrants on Main Street. If there are, this was sort of a maybe because we weren't really sure around the legality of painting those things. So we will see. Thank goodness we have the fire chief here somewhere. Yes. Okay, good. That's what I was hoping. So as a possible site, the missing crosswalk pole. And then there's also cracked wall tiles in front of the Newberry building, which would be cool to possibly do something for as well. And then I think there's one more page of these. Oh no, just questions. I was going to say something else and I can't remember what it was. So do you have any questions?
Any questions from council? I see a question behind you. Go ahead, Adam.
The fence over here is what you're talking about?
Yes.
So is it okay if I take my Zozo and get rid of the poison ivy?
That's above my pay
It's a
grade.
conversation for another day.
Okay.
Any questions about the project from anyone?
Yes.
There are other cities that paint fire hydrants. They look fabulous.
Yes. That's the hope, yes.
You got something to say about that?
Well, yeah, so as far as from a fire service standpoint, it would be fantastic.
Great.
The hydrants are actually installed and maintained by the city public works, Tom Bernier. I have no problem with it
Okay, so
whatsoever.
he just left, so.
Yeah, as long
So we
as,
must be okay.
yeah, as long
Never leave a meeting early.
it's
That's my
easier to
bad.
ask for forgiveness and permission.
Okay, perfect. You heard it here first, so.
But no, the hydrants are fine.
Okay, great, thank you.
Lori? Go ahead, Kevin.
I'm sorry. The only thing is the tops of the hydrants are
Okay.
color coded, and that's for different
So
water
they need to
volumes.
stay the colors that they are.
Probably the tops would need to stay the way they are, yes. I'm
Perfect.
sorry.
What,
Yeah,
what
that's
part of
really
the
good to
top?
know.
The actual,
So that hydrant right there is
It's the green top.
the green stuff?
So
Yeah.
you're gonna see the ones around the city. Some are red, some are green, some are blue.
Yeah. And it depends, it's signifying water volume, how much water there is available.
Okay, because I was gonna get started right now.
So could you do like silhouettes or something and keep it green, but be
I would imagine. So I've seen other ones where people kind of turn. I've seen them do like almost like a Dalmatian looking thing, so it looks like a dog. I've seen people paint minions on them before, so like there's some options for fire hydrants for sure.
Yeah.
I could just say a word about the missing crosswalk pole. That got taken out a couple of months ago by a driver who clearly wasn't paying attention. The intention is to replace it,
Yes.
just so you know.
Yeah.
Though I don't know the timeline, and that brings up one other thing, which is I know about what I know about the Gallup project is there was language in the agreement
Yes,
that made it
yes.
clear to artists that just because you make art out of this doesn't mean it will be here forever.
Yes. Thank you for.
It can be improved to go back to whatever condition it should have been in the first place at any time.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. That was something that we had discussed as well, is knowing that all of these projects, though they're really vibrant, they may be subject to change based on timeframes and.
Lori?
So two things. Number one, I was happy to hear you say spreading out into East Main Street. I think that's really important. And even other parts of the city. I mean, I understand starting here, but I think we get boxed in a little bit, and I think we need to look at the city as a whole. And the other thing, and Pam actually may know something about this, but years ago, when Formiga Arts did the fence, there was lots of discussion about who owned it, who could do it, who approved it. So I'm just adding that. So
I got the information for that. I was one of the people who wove the fence.
Oh, yes, that was very cool, yes. And we were that's another option as well, is like most of the places we were looking at are city owned, but there are a few that are privately owned as well. There are people that we have established relationships with. So right now we're kind of just identifying possible options, and then we get them finalized, then we would approach people to make sure and that it would be okay to use that space, and if not, then we would have backup locations as well.
I'm going to take one last comment from Adam, and then we're going to move on because we have a full agenda. Adam?
If an artist, because I interact with a lot of random people,
Yeah.
wants to be on your list, how do they contact you?
That's a really good question. So ideally, this will be on the website for our city council, and then as well, once we have the arts installation on the fence, we would also have information next to it so people could be aware of what that was. So advertising campaigns will probably put up posters, things like that. So there will be advertising, and then there'll be an email address for them to submit their stuff. Right? Yes? Okay. It's all kind of fluid right now, so.
So I think, given Robin's presentation, it would be appropriate to entertain a motion to affirm this initiative, this tiny art proposal, and let them know that we're looking forward to seeing how it develops, and let us know if we need to help. Somebody want to make some kind of a motion in that vague direction?
I'll make that motion that we approve the tiny art project and look forward to what it produces.
Thanks, Kevin.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any further comment from the council? Or from the community? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion carries. Thank you so much,
We
Robin.
look forward to it. Thank you
Thank
for your
you, Robin.
time.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carter. Good job. Okay, The next item on our agenda is our new item number 7. This is actually, Carter reminded me, I had kind of lost track, that way back in March, when we had all the other department heads come and give us an overview of their department, that Kevin was unable to be with us. So she asked that we reach out to Kevin to ask if he could come this evening. And I thought the timing actually was really good, because you'll remember we spoke at the last meeting about entertaining the possibility of a task force to look at kind of long-range planning for the fire department, which I expect to come before us next month. So it seems like it's smart for us to just get a sense of how things work. So Kevin, I'm going to invite you forward to grab a chair and just join us maybe here at the table. Okay. And I don't think we're going to look for any kind of action coming out of this. It's just a report and a conversation with Kevin. Chief?
Chief, thank you. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Carter. I appreciate that. Mr. Mayor, council members, members of the public, I appreciate the chance to kind of give you a quick overview of the fire department. This will be a Reader's Digest condensed version. I'm not really much of a public speaker, so I'm going to do the best I can.
You're doing great so far, Chief.
Thank you very much. I kind of lost my voice from this last call up here. We were kind of shouting over the trucks and stuff.
Everything okay?
Well, yeah, it was concerned citizens, which are what people calling when they see stuff. So that's great. But so just a quick history. In 1885, the fire service was basically established for, which I'm not even sure it was the Newport area then, but it was the area of Newport. So that was 1885. 1918, the city of Newport was incorporated and the fire department became part of the city and is renamed the Medford-Magog Hose Company. So from 1885 to this date, we're looking at about 140 years of fire history, which, if you think about it, that's a long time to have that kind of protection. The City of Newport Fire, we currently have 24 members. That's not including the 3 juniors. We have a junior program that junior members are able to join from the age of 14 to 17. And at the time they turned 18, they were able to join the department full-time. We have a very good turnover rate. The junior program is super. Juniors are very limited on what they can do. They can respond to calls, but they are, again, underage. They're not really able to do much other than observe. We have the hierarchy in the fire department. Myself as the chief, we have 2 assistant chiefs, 2 captains, and 2 lieutenants. That maybe sounds like it's a little overboard on authority figures, but on a fire scene, there's organized chaos at best. So we really need, I need someone that I can appoint to different areas and be sure that jobs and tasks are getting done. City of Newport apparatus, we have an engine 1, we have engine 2 that are pumpers, pumpers, they do carry water. We also have Rescue 5 that carries all our extrication equipment, a lot of the first aid stuff. We have our Tower 1, it's a massive piece of unbelievable equipment. It was actually put into use last Wednesday night at the Columbia Forest fire that they had in their bin. We were, 5.5 hours there, and the safety aspect of that tower to get up on the roof and do what we need to do, get guys up there, it's amazing. It is an amazing piece of equipment. We also have a brush truck, Brush 23. We respond, it's able to go off-road, it's 4-wheel drive. We can get to brush fires, which we've used here in the city. We've also used it for mutual aid in surrounding communities. We have our airboat. We use it for ice and water rescue, very effective. We have a 4x4, or side-by-side, that we use for snowmobile rescue, snowmobile trails in the winter, 4x4-wheeler trails in the summertime. We have a sked that goes on the back that actually has backboards, and we're able to put ambulance personnel in there for assistance. Let me see, we also have a special ops trailer out back that's full of all kinds of cribbing, if needed for collapse, trench collects, etc. And then we're expecting delivery of our new Engine 3 still this September. We have been in negotiations and talks with Spartan, finalizing everything that we need to do to get that, to make sure it's going to happen. We're very excited for that truck. It's going to be a huge asset to the city. Day-to-day operations, I'm sure you've seen that we have hired a full-time fire administrator. Jeff Young was hired. He is doing an absolute amazing job down there. The station is immaculate. It is picked up, it is clean. He is a huge asset. I can't say enough. And he basically, he's answering phone calls, he's scheduling truck repairs. He also responds to calls. It's very nice to know that through the day that we have someone there that's able to, respond with the truck, able to pump and have that person there. He does data entry, payroll, fire reports, call counts. And then we do a lot of public outreach events, which Jeff is very good with doing that. Speaking of outreach, we're very busy with those. We're doing fire safety trainings, touch of truck events, parades, school fire safety events. Carter, I apologize again. We did not make your bike event this year. That's a great event, and we just couldn't get guys to go on that Sunday. We train at the station every Tuesday night. We begin at 1800. Trainings include apparatus operation, bladders, air pack use, thermal imaging cameras, fire attack vehicle extrications, tagging hydrants, building inspections, building walkthroughs. The state fire marshal will come up on new construction, and I'll go with him through the day sometimes to do a pre-inspection of areas before stuff is built up. We're at 91 calls so far this year, which I think is pretty busy for a small population community. We absolutely respond to everything. We respond to structure, wildland, chimney, vehicle trash, cooking fires. We respond to motor vehicle crashes, ice water rescues, alarm calls, hazmat incidents, power lines down, burning orders, illegal burning complaints. We also assist other departments through mutual aid, and we work with Newport ambulance as needed. A lot of times it's home entry, they can't get into a door or something. A lot of lift assist. Our guys will drive the ambulance if needed. They have been trained to do that, so we're pretty busy. We're really busy. So we have and I just kind of put this down. The train's going to compete with me now, but we have a very, very dedicated group of individuals. They come together when the tones drop, no matter the time of day or night, regardless of weather conditions, to help possibly a stranger or a neighbor. They do this while maintaining a full-time job, trying to balance home time with fire calls and trainings. This would not be possible without the support of our families, as they also are part of every call that comes in. Again, I try to emphasize this, that it's not just our guys that are responding, the whole family structure of that firefighter is affected. As my wife would say, that I've gone away from some events that I probably shouldn't have when they were going on, but that's another whole story.
Marital counseling available.
Yeah. I think I had a birthday one time and there were a lot of people over and the tones dropped, but I got back. Let's put it that way. So I'd like to tell you that this next part is something brilliant that I come up with, but I actually took this off the city's website, and I thought it pretty much sums up the way that I feel, the way that our guys feel. It says, we take the responsibility to safeguard our community very serious. Our guarantee to the citizens and visitors of Newport is to provide dependable services while showing care and compassion. Our priority is to serve the community, and we promise to treat those we serve and our members with professionalism and respect. We value, respect, and kindness and strive to foster the spirit of excellence. At any time, any council member, any member of the public wants to stop in, we'd be thrilled to have you take a look at our house and what we've done down there. The city of Newport has been very good to us, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate the support. And I'm very excited to work with the new council and the mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no kidding. Questions or comments from the council?
Last week, they were at the high school. They do a mock crash before graduation to underscore the dangers of drinking and driving. And they 2 vehicles are donated, crashed vehicles.
Ray's Auto, Ray's Towing, yeah.
And so the police called it in like a normal accident. And the fire department showed up. You had quite a few guys.
Yeah, we had a good turnout.
It was
yeah.
a good turnout.
Yeah.
And it made a good impression on the kids. I mean, they were all paying attention, so it's very good.
Yeah, we're thrilled that they were asked, and we, you know, if just one person sees this and they realize that, gosh, maybe it's not a good night to be drinking and driving, but we do, you know, we pop a door with the jaws so they get that feel. You can tell that you're getting through to the kids because it was that quiet. There were probably 200, I don't know, was there 200?
Oh, yeah.
150, 200?
That was sophomores and freshmen?
Yeah. And we,
They were
Travis Bingham narrates what's going on and the response. We have Curtis Bridge actually there and when they pull, you know, a supposed victim that's deceased and they put him in a bag. Yeah, there's some tough times for a minute. So, and again, it's not to scare them into oblivion, but the reality is this is what happens.
Yeah.
There's no going back. So, but we appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. And it was great. It just showed how the agencies work together.
Yeah.
The ambulance,
PD.
2 different agencies were there for police, the sheriff in Newport.
And rumor had it that Kevin may have had Dunkin' Donuts in his office. Just saying.
Just a rumor. Probably a vicious rumor.
And the school, the school and the career center allowed the junior members to participate in it. So that meant a lot, being able to see students, you know, of their same age, other teenagers
So
helping with that
Andrew's
situation.
his younger son is a junior, and he was in fire gear, and I think it drove it home, you know, about what's possible, what's out there.
You want to jump in on this one? I can tell.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that my high schooler came home, and I always asked how was school, and I heard all about it, so he did a really good impression. And
that's cool.
And it wasn't scary. My kid's very sensitive, and it wasn't like one of those trauma
shock and
things. Yeah, it was very well done. So
good.
Nice
Thank you,
my kid.
Oh, thank you, Kevin.
Other comments or questions? Anything from the community?
I gotta say, is once just on other business, I tootled around to the fire station, and there's a lot that we have at our disposal, and it's for all things. That,
I mean,
you know, it's such a resource that we have in town, but it wouldn't happen without the volunteers and the people behind it. So it's like cool, yeah.
The guys are just. It's unbelievable that, you know, they're working full-time jobs, and I think we get out of the mill the other night at like 1 o'clock or 1:30. Everybody had to get up and go to work at 6 or 7, and plus we get back to the station, there was another hour of cleanup, you know, restocking the trucks, getting things back where they need to go. So it's tough. It's really tough to ask. It's a lot to ask for people, but I couldn't be more appreciative of our department. So.
Well, I know I speak on behalf of the council, and I suspect everybody in the community too, when I appreciate everybody in the department and all the work that's been done. And I want to take a moment to add personal appreciation, Kevin, for your work over the last 2 years as someone who came onto the council 15 months ago in the midst of significant transition and repeated searches for new leadership. And your repeated attempts to say, I can't do this anymore, the fact that you stuck with us through that entire process, and we ended up with what I think, in fact, for this moment in time, is a really elegant solution with Jeff full-time and you acting as a part-time chief. I think it really has brought a level of stability and calm to the whole department that, you know, I spent almost 6 months last year functioning as a liaison to the fire department, and there's no comparison between now and this time last year. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank
for
you
all
very
your
much,
work.
guys.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I just say that it's always been said the fire department's the best deal the city's got.
Thank you, sir.
It's true. Thank you. You just set it back here.
Thank you.
Okay, so stay tuned. We'll be back for more conversation about the planning a task force for the future of the fire department to do some thinking about that next month. Going to move us on now to task force reports, item number 8. And we'll go first to John for any kind of report you'd like to give or update on the work of the Water and Sewer Task Force.
Well, everybody heard the results of phase 1 at the last meeting, so I won't belabor that. Going into what we call phase 2 at this point. We've had one meeting regarding those issues, and what we've done essentially is prioritize a list of a dozen or so tasks that we're going to work on over the next several months. The first 3 things that we're diving into are the feasibility of a plan for a meter installation to get that done, looking at staffing issues, looking at the Derby sewer contract, and I know that some difficulties with billing are being straightened out in that regard.
Have been straightened out.
Okay.
So the billing is up to date. The Village of Derby has been invoiced at this point.
Okay.
So we're in good shape on that.
Yeah, and then we're just going to get into a general review of the overall budget in terms of how it's set up in terms of line items, descriptions, and then fine tuning. And within the next few months, we'll have hopefully closing out the current fiscal year based on collections from the current water and sewer billing cycle, so we get a sense of where we are. And that in turn may drive some down the road recommendations.
Thank you. But no need for action by the council tonight.
No, we're probably a couple of months away from any other action, I think.
Okay. Any questions from council members or members of the community? Okay, thank you, John. So we have Carter here, and I think Lori's the only one from the Financial Reporting and Fiscal Practices Committee. But I wonder, Carter, if you want to walk us through kind of where that task force is, and I think there is at least one recommendation tonight.
Yes. So I'm wondering, well, what I'm going to be talking from is this document that I sent. So I'm going to try to distill it, but also elaborate in some places. But for the cleanest record, what I wrote this weekend is in the packet, and so refer to that. But basically, since the special meeting at the end of April, we contracted with a NEMRIC consultant to come through our general ledger, accounts, and he's just been busy at work. Also working with Jim in the office below, as well as just throwing a bunch of questions. And it's been going pretty well. And just like, I've been documenting as I get these emails in. We have been recording them in big old Excel spreadsheets referencing all the attachments and what he's talking about. And then we have follow-up with how did the city respond to it? Is this resolved? So we have a running log, and we're cataloging what has been discovered, and really just answering a lot of questions that as he's coming through these records, what he's finding. So that's been going on. And as well as our weekly meetings on Fridays afternoon. So as the task force is able to review these documents and discoveries as they come up. And one main thing that we have known for a bit, and this recommendation is in order to try to accomplish and attempts to accomplish this goal, which is we need to pay back $1.8 million to Pasumsix, their line of credit. It is not a revolving loan, and in order to take out another line of credit to get us through the next phase, we have to pay that off. It's just a condition. So to close that gap, the CHIP has found some accounts that either A, for just bookkeeping reasons, is like there's one account that has just 67 cents in it or something like that, to close it for cleaning, but also we need to move these funds into the general ledger in order to pay our bills, to keep the lights on, and also hopefully be able to pay down that line of credit. And so those accounts are listed in the attachment. I could read them real quick.
I would say hold them.
Okay.
Hold them and let's put a motion on the table in which we read them.
Okay.
Then we'll ask for comment and then we'll take action. So anything else you want to say before we do a motion?
The caveat is that these funds are, like, when they were assessed, the number values could change just based on normal.
Can you say that
Oh,
again?
sorry. So that the numbers, I have an estimate if it's approximately $825,000, but it's subject to change. So might be a little more, might be a little less. Just making sure. Oh, the one piece is I do want to reiterate that we clarified the origins of these funds and these like accounts, also what the intent was, and also the restrictions that are attached. So if they were obligated or restricted, there's different fund terminologies, and we have relied also on a number of, it's not just the task force plus CHIP plus the office downstairs. There's VLCT has been involved. We've gotten legal counsel. The SUMSIC, Vermont Bond Bank. So there's been a lot of conversations going on Friday, and I don't mean to just like gloss over it, but that is how we have formed and where we are with this decision. So, did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Lori, anything you want to add to Carter's summary? Okay, then I think, Carter, if you want to put a motion before us about the closing of those accounts for the council to consider, that'd be great. And I think we should name each one by the actual designation.
Okay. So, I would make a motion. Oh, wait, do I say to make a motion to recommend?
Move.
Or do I
You can just move.
move the submit a request to the city treasurer to close the following accounts and place the money into the general fund checking account. This would be the reappraisal fund. This would be the bike path fund, the Vector sinking fund, the tennis court fund, the Coventry Street sinking fund, the Gardner Park restoration fund, the water tower sinking fund, the water treatment facility replacement fund. It's WTF. I think so. Okay.
I think that's the more appropriate use of WTF.
Yeah. I was like, water treatment facility. Okay. Anyways, reservoir cover fund, wastewater treatment facility sinking fund, and Vector sinking fund. There are two Vector sinking funds. It was basically because they were split, because it was part of it was in water, part of it was in sewer, and we're addressing both. Two of these guys have less than $10 in them, and they're cleaning. That would be the tennis, and I think the Coventry, no, the bike path and the tennis one. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm explaining. That's the motion. I should have cleaned it up.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions from members of council?
So by closing these funds, you're not closing out the obligation on the books?
Correct.
You're maintaining it. It's-
Correct. We're moving it for the purposes of cleaning the accounting and to make the cash available to help us with cash flow. But the obligation remains in place.
Chip mentioned, so for the accounts that are obligated, we can establish a liability account, and he would work with Jim to establish that in our systems.
Okay, any other questions from council? Hearing none, I welcome any comments or questions from members of the community. Lori?
I'll just make a statement as a member of the financial task force that, we didn't take any of this lightly because these were monies that, the community expected, things like that. But one of the ideas is when you have a debt, you can't just go put money in the bank if you have stuff to pay. And this is where we are at this point. So we have to take what we can use to pay our other obligations. So that's the purpose behind this. So
That's a really helpful explanation, actually. Ann?
I just have a comment, and I understand the seriousness of the action that you need to take tonight, and I'm not opposed to that. But I would like to say, for the future, a lot of the reasons that we got ourselves into these problems is, among many of the reasons we got ourselves into these problems, were that we didn't watch what we could do and what we couldn't do. Some of these funds, for instance, are water and sewer funds, and they need to be established with the approval of the citizens by a vote. I'll bet a lot of them weren't. And once established for a specific purpose, if money's going to be taken out of them for anything other than that purpose, the citizens need to vote. And I hope that will occur in the future, and that we will take good care of doing that, so that some of these things will not happen in the future again. I'm not faulting anyone in the committee or on this council for taking the actions they do. And in fact, a lot of the money that was put into the water and sewer funds were put in when there was no money to put in. So that for that reason alone, I think the monies can come out. But I do not want in any way for people to act cavalierly, as I think they have in the past, with regard to these things, because it gets us into a lot of trouble.
Thank you. Jennifer?
I would ask for Mr. Manette to respond to that statement, because it's my understanding, based on my recollection of the statutes, that when the council is seated as water commissioners, they have statutory authority to create sinking funds up to a certain percentage of expenses. Is that accurate, Mr. Manette?
I would want to go back and look at the statute to be absolutely sure, but there certainly are some situations in which the county and the water commissioners, more accurately, can set up sinking funds for specific purposes and build them into the budget. And going forward, it's going to be essential to do that for at least some items that we know are going to be coming up in the future, and that's part of what the Water and Sewer Committee is looking at in terms of long-term budgeting. Our immediate focus was how do we try to get on to a break even, but then we have the other two issues of the past cumulative obligation, and then funding the sinking funds appropriately.
Right, and that authority is given through statute. It does not require a vote of the residents.
Yeah.
Is that your recollection of it?
Yeah, the water commissioners have the authority to set the budget. It's not voted on by the residents. The basic statutory premise is how much is it going to cost to run the system. Set the budget at that level, and then work backwards from that to come up with a rate structure to hopefully break even and cover the appropriate sinking funds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Pam?
I understand the difference between the council and the water commissioners. All of you are wearing two hats. However, for the benefit of us in the cheap seats, it is really useful to know which hat you're wearing. And I think in the past, the council and the water commissioners have not had a clue which hat they were wearing. And that it's really important that if you're going to play different games with money and make it okay with one hat and not okay with the other, regardless of the statute, that you be very clear with the citizens which hat you have on.
Noted. For the record, on this particular motion, we're acting as mayor and council.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second before us to close the accounts that Carter has delineated and place the money from those accounts into the general fund checking account. Any further comment or question from members of council? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. And thank you again to the members of the task force. And I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it. I am so grateful, Pam, for you and for NEK-TV, because though there aren't a lot of people in the room tonight, I think we're seeing several dozen minimum, and often more, who are watching these council meetings and watching all of it's like a reality TV show for some folks. They watch every meeting. So thank you for doing that. I think it's really helpful. Okay, the third item under task force reports is that the council voted at our last meeting to create a new task force. You'll love the latest crazy idea or name that I came up with for this one, because I insist that we want the name to say what we're actually doing. So we voted at the last meeting to start a task force on housing insecurity, public encampments, and community safety. That we looked at a job description for that group of people. We approved that job description at the last meeting. It is in the minutes that we just approved tonight, if anybody would like to refer back to it. And then Chief Bingham and myself have spent the last 2 weeks working on getting the slate of names ready to name to that council. I keep doing that, to that task force. And there is a document that was in our packet for tonight that I just want to review, and we'll be asking for the council to take action on the following people to be named as members of that task force. I'll say that the expectation is this task force will operate under the same rules that the other two task forces are operating, which is to say that meetings will be publicly warned through the events section of the website. Meetings will be open for anyone in the public who would like to come and sit in on them and to make comment as that group does its deliberation. And its only role is to make recommendations to mayor and council for action. So I don't know exactly how long we expect this one will go. It's a pretty big agenda. And I'll just remind folks that where it came from was initially a request from Chief Bingham that we try and develop an appropriate policy that his police department can apply consistently and fairly. And that as we looked at it, Chief Bingham and I together, we became more and more clear that we couldn't have it be just a strategy about police enforcement, but that it needs to include questions around what does housing insecurity look like in this community, how do people become unhoused, and further, what does community safety look like? And so we're going to look at all of those things together, and we'll watch for the recommendations to come back. So the proposed members of this task force would be myself, Council President Kevin Charbonneau has agreed to chair this group. Police Chief Bingham will serve. I don't quite know if we're appointing him to a member of the task force or, like in other cases, we've simply named staff who will support that task force. Casey Winters from NECA has agreed to serve. Amber Robbins from NKHS has agreed to serve. Chris Mitchell from AHS, which is the Agency of Human Services. I want to make sure I got that right. Thank you. Chris Mitchell has agreed to serve. Journey to Recovery, Lila Bennett has agreed to either serve or make sure that someone is there to represent them. And Pastor Larry Wall from the Church of God, which is the church that's located just behind the Community National Bank off of the Derby Road. And then Travis Gaines, the co-director of the United Christian Academy, has asked to serve on this. I'll note that he is serving currently on the Financial Reporting and Fiscal Practices Task Force. He and I haven't had a chance to catch up to determine whether or not this means he'll step back from that one. It will depend mostly on his ability to manage more than one commitment. And then finally, a young woman named Gabriella Stacy, whom I met when I spoke with a couple of the high school groups 2 weeks ago, and who came to me specifically with a concern for unhoused folks, and you can see from her statement, in particular, for concern for homeless women and moms coming from domestic violence and sex trafficking situations. And she's agreed to serve, and I think is excited and enthusiastic about doing so. We have one other person whom I won't name because we don't have an answer yet, but we're hoping to name one more person to this. And if we do find that person, we'll try and start that immediately. We've extended an offer to that person. So if we have yet another person who has offered, but I've got a person who's in the pipeline. If that person comes through, That will complete our complement. And if not, then we'll talk with our next person. So that's our proposed slate. I'd invite a motion to name those people to the task force that we established 2 weeks ago.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'd love to second.
Great. I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from members of council? Okay. Any comments or questions from members of the community? Adam?
I am a subject matter expert on the topic, have been on and off homeless since 12 years old. So I know exactly what it takes to be indoors. I'm indoors now.
Thank you. So Adam and I have had that conversation, and I didn't know about his interest till today, but we've made it clear that regardless of whether or not he's named to the task force, those task force meetings are open and folks are encouraged to participate in them. Yes?
The encampments over here or?
Yeah, we're not going to go there tonight.
Gotcha.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I have a motion on the table and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing how that goes. Okay, we are almost through our agenda. Our next item, I would invite a motion to enter into executive session and action per 1 VSA section 313A4 regarding disciplinary or dismissal action of a public officer or employee with a possible vote to follow. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All in favor of entering into executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The members of council and mayor are in executive session.
Now we are.
Thank you. Okay, we are out of executive session. No action was taken.
I would like to make the motion to terminate Becky Tarian's employment with the city due to her inability to return to work with the agreement put forth, brought to you by myself and the mayor as an agreement.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further comment, question? Any comment or question from the community? Jennifer?
Would Ms. Tarian, should she find herself in a better state of health in the future and capable of, performing job duties, would she be considered as anyone else in applying for a job, or is this in some way going to act as a black mark against her?
The letter of dismissal specifies that there is no reflection on job performance.
Okay.
And I will say that we've had, Andrew and I have had extensive conversation with Rebecca over the last month and a half, and we've been pretty thoughtful about coming to an agreement that makes the most sense. I'm confident. So and in fact, this is probably as good a place as any for me to make the comment that, Becky was with this city for over 7 years, I believe, and has done a remarkable job. And I think the city wants to express great appreciation. I know the council would like to express great appreciation for her work on behalf of the city. Any further comments? Hearing none, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
You already seconded it. Thank you, John. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is to review the job description put forth. Again, this is work that has been done primarily by myself and Councilmember Touchette. It was published in the packet. So I don't think we need to rehearse the details of it. We can just answer any questions that come up. If the council were to pass this or some version of this job description, the intention would be that we would begin a search again this week sometime. I don't think it'll happen tomorrow, but we would begin working to put out a public search again this week. Those who have applied for similar positions, but that aren't exactly the same over the last several months would be welcome to apply again for this particular job description. And the council would seek to take action sometime, I suspect, in June on trying to hire for this position. So, Andrew, do you want to say anything about the job description itself?
There are some changes that we made to it. I think it refines it a lot. It makes it simple, simplifies that in a lot of areas, but we still need qualified people. So that's all I have. I do want to make it a point, though, that when this passes, that the other two versions of this prior to this one disappear, and this be the one that we are going to advertise for.
Thank you. I will also say that I met with the department heads last Tuesday, and we spent almost the entire meeting working through this job description together, so they've had significant opportunity to give input to this position, because this position is at its foundational level a support system to the rest of the department, all the department heads. So they've been heavily consulted in the creation of this version of the job description. So if there are no further questions at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve this job description as presented by Andrew and myself.
So if we have like any comments, we'll say that after.
Yeah,
Okay.
put the motion on the table and then we can make any adjustments you'd like.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. So Carter, have at it.
I had a question and then a takeaway that I took a training this morning from VLCT about hiring a town administrator. It was like one of like 3 people, so I was like, and let me take the mic. It was great. But one question I had was the development or expansion on the human resources matter. That wasn't in the original, but is that just a different way of putting you're going to coordinate with the department heads and like what that entails?
Correct.
Or
Yeah, what we're really saying there is, I mean, I'll give you the example that we talked about in the department heads meeting. If any one of the department heads is prepared to hire someone, they want to be able to say, we've done all the due vetting of this person. We've all agreed we're hiring the person, however we came to that decision. Now it's time to go upstairs and talk to the person in this office, and they will set you up for the appropriate paperwork and make sure you're signed up for the appropriate insurances and just everything's filled out. So yes, it's a support system that for several years now has been largely borne by the department heads who haven't had any real training or background in it, many of them. I was sorry to have to miss that meeting this morning, so if you have other thoughts or improvements, I'd love to hear them because I wanted to be there.
the main thing we talked about and dissected, because there's 2 other, like I said, 2 other, and we talked about the differences between like an elected position and then versus like an appointed, and then the legalities of each and shifting from one to the other. But a main takeaway is to add a place in the job description where we say this is like contingent upon a background check. That is helpful. So that way the people know when they're applying, especially for a financial role. So that's one thing they said, to make sure that's in your offer letter, but it's also really helpful to just front load it so people will know to expect that. And then other things that we talked about was like the salaries and benefits, and they really hit home that we need to have strong benefits to entice the right employees, but that's probably is somewhat established because this was like from this position of a new town administrator versus this is a role that we're kind of mushing and gelling. And then they said they would get back to me with some other resources, and I haven't gotten that email, so. But one of them was about, one that I was curious about was just the structure of a town government, like the different roles and things like that. So I was like, I'm really interested in that one. But anyway, so I'll get back to you and I'll share that once I have it. And they did also talk about the FLSA, which I see at the top is exempt, or non-exempt, excuse me, non-exempt, which is good. So anyways.
Great.
I see everything else. Yeah.
So it's good advice that I will keep in mind, Andrew and I will keep in mind as we do the advertisement this week. The job posting will name that candidates should expect it to be submitted to a background check. Anything else? Community folks. Yeah, go ahead, Ann, and then we'll go to Jennifer.
In the past, we've had some problems with coordinating the job description here and then what the person does in terms of their job description. And the role of the mayor. And so here in this, the financial person is told that they basically report to, I think, the council and the city manager. But in the charter, it says that the mayor, and Lori has pointed this out several times, the mayor is the chief executive, and right after it describes what the chief executive is, it sort of says that she's responsible for making sure, or he's responsible for making sure that people, all employees, do their job. So I would just think about whether or not you wanted to put in, as well as the city manager and the council, the mayor specifically.
So the way it reads right now, it says the position is accountable to the city manager, or in the absence of a city manager, to mayor and council.
Does it say mayor?
Yes.
Oh, good.
In the absence.
And I don't know whether or not it shouldn't just say the city manager, the mayor, and the city council, only because the role of a chief executive, as described in the charter, is that they are responsible for making sure every employee does their job. And unless somebody knows that that's the person that they are responsible to from the job description, you know, it creates, I don't know, wiggle room. What? I'm a little bit of a concern. I don't know. Just a thought that you could think about.
So I'll just say I'm happy to hear other council members, because we haven't discussed this, but as I've tried to understand exactly what we're doing here, it seems to me that by charter, as I understand it, council is required to oversee a city manager, mayor and council. And also by charter, for reasons I'm not sure I fully understand, except that it's a very old charter, we have a similar responsibility for Department of Public Works director. All other positions are not covered by the charter, and it's my assumption that a city manager's job is to manage the staff of the city. Therefore, if the council has a problem with the ability of a particular staff person to manage their job, the appropriate way to handle that is to work with the city manager, to take our concerns to the city manager, and to have the city manager work that out. And if we're unhappy with the way it gets worked out, it's our job to manage that relationship. That's our primary person, or in this case, in our city's case, the DPW director and the city manager are the primary people who are responsible to the city council. But at the end of the day, I don't think this does anything to undercut the ultimate authority of mayor and council to determine the affairs of the city. So it's certainly not my attention and all the work I put into trying to create this document to undercut that authority in any way. I'm going to, hold on, Jennifer, please. I'm just going to ask if, because we really haven't had a chance to talk about this ourselves, and I'd love to hear, if you all have concerns or questions, this is the time to raise them. Silence has been dangerous from the council in the past, so I'm just going to ask us to I'm going to go through each of you and say, if you've got something to say, this is a great moment to say it, because this has been a very contentious matter, and I just want to know, like, really, truly, I'm not suggesting that there's only one way to approach this, but Ann's correct in pointing out that this document makes some judgments So let's start down at the other end there, Kevin. Do you have any concerns or questions you'd like to raise about this?
I think Andrew brought up my primary concern is that we get rid of those other two positions that are currently on the books, have this one position. And certainly when we hire a city manager, they'll have a job description. And it was spelled out in here that this could be modified so that it actually would marry up well with the city manager's position. So I think it's good as written.
That's a great point, actually, that I might have also made, which is that we haven't yet taken on that city manager job description. I suspect we'll return to that in the fall. John?
Yeah, I would just echo that that needs to be done. And this also reiterates the point that the charter is very old. The charter predates the concept of city managers, and past efforts to update it in that regard have been less than successful. And at some point, when the dust settles on some of the more imminent issues, I think revisiting the charter and looking at a comprehensive update needs to be on the list.
Right with you. Andrew?
I agree with how it's written currently, and not just because I had something to do with it, but I do.
But that helps.
That does help, right? Because it does say the position is accountable to the city manager, or in the absence of the city manager, the mayor and council.
Thank you. Carter?
Two things. Let's see if I can remember them both. One thing that was discussed in the training is that redundancy for tasks is actually a strong thing when it comes to your city government. So that way, if somebody gets sick or drops off the face of the planet, there is somebody else that is able to and should know also how to do these super critical tasks within the city. So I see that there's strengths and maybe a little overlap at this time. And then the other one. Wait. Wordy. Something else. Come back to me.
I will.
I had it. I was like, you got just to.
To your first point,
Yeah.
Carter, I think I am certainly experiencing the challenge around lack of redundancy
Yeah.
right now. As recently as this morning, it came to my attention that a fairly significant bill to a sister community for services rendered by the city of Newport was not executed last fall, and that the most recent actual invoice is from 2 years ago. And so we're still finding things that if Becky had been here for the last year, I suspect would not have fallen through the cracks. So it's absolutely true that having some shared understandings, and I think among the department heads, there's a lot more awareness now than there has been for some time. They've certainly taken on a lot of extra responsibility. You thought of it?
Yeah, I did.
I thought, what gave you a moment there?
Yes. The other thing that I took away that I didn't know until I took the training was that a town manager's authority actually emanates from state statute. It's written, and I know that our charter then takes precedent, but versus a town administrator or somebody that is not elected but rather appointed is designated and their roles are assigned by the council. So I just that's a reminder. But again, I as that all weaves together, I want to hear all perspectives.
We'll come back to it in the fall.
Yes, it's an evolving discussion for sure.
Okay. Jennifer, do you still have a comment?
I do. So, in reference to the authority of the council and the mayor and the city manager under our charter, one has to think about it as a two-prong approach. And so our charter is actually set up in such a way as to give an option to the council as to whether or not they want to follow a strong mayor form of government, or if they want to appoint a city manager. And so the charter's wording says that the council may appoint the city manager. So it's discretionary. However, once the council exercises its discretion and appoints a city manager, the charter then goes on to say that that city manager shall be the administrative head of the city. And shall means it's going to happen. It's not discretionary. And so when the council makes that decision to hire a city manager, it is transferring that authority over to the city manager to be the administrator of the city. And that is where there has been this misinterpretation, in my opinion, of the charter. The other concern that I have is that in most cities that have a strong mayor form of government, the mayor is not seated on the council that sets policy. The mayor is separate and apart from the council. And it's that division of power, that checks and balances, that keeps everybody safe. If we have a strong mayor form of government, and the mayor is also seated on the council, we have a melding of our different, like our executive branch and our legislative branch, and it's a problem, okay? And that's where things go south, when you have that consolidation of power. And so I
ask you to keep your comments short.
I think that the way that you have this worded is a safeguard by allowing it to be the entire council and not just one individual. And I think it's appropriate. So I commend you for thinking ahead and saying, okay, how can we safeguard and make sure that our systems of checks and balances under our antiquated charter are strong and healthy and will keep Newport vibrant. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just say in response to that I don't disagree with what you've said, Jennifer, but I want to be really clear, and we'll come back to this conversation in the fall, that the ultimate authority for that over that city manager is held by mayor and council.
Correct.
And the way that gets exercised is, if we're unhappy with that person's job description, job performance,
you fire them.
We fire them. Or we put them on a job performance improvement plan, or there's some action. So at the end of the day, it remains the mayor and council who have the ultimate authority over the management of the affairs of the city. Okay.
Right, and that's all governed by the city manager statute in terms of how it works. Whereas Burlington and Rutland are the two prime examples in Vermont of the strong mayor approach. And in both of those instances, the mayor is a full-time person with a full-time significant salary, and the mayor doesn't.
Wait, that's possible? I want to
And the mayor does not sit at the council table and preside at the meetings.
Right.
The mayor sits out here with the department heads and makes presentations to the council, which is chaired by the council president, not the mayor.
Correct.
And so that's the strong mayor approach to it. And neither Burlington nor Rutland have a city manager as such. They have other management people in finance and other departments, but they don't follow the city manager statute precisely because they have that strong mayor, full-time. The mayor is essentially the manager, for lack of a better way to put it. And Newport, on the other hand, ran with the mayor, city manager following the city manager statute from as long as I can remember back up until a couple of years ago. Whether or not the charter was always interpreted that way in terms of how it operated.
Thank you. Lori?
I won't enter that debate tonight. I think it's an interpretation, and I will agree with the things that have been said, but we're the city of Newport, and so in any case, I'm not going to go there tonight. But
thank you.
But I would like to ask, do we have a salary range for this job, and at what point are we allowed to post that job description? Because it could be tonight if you guys approve it.
So there was a salary range that was approved for this by the previous council. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was in the neighborhood of, do you remember, Kevin? It was in the neighborhood of 50,000 plus benefits.
Each position had a salary, and this is a new position, so.
Yeah.
It's a good question. What I would recommend is that we start out with the assumption that we're in the range, I think, that we've discussed before, which is 50 to 60,000, depending on experience. And the assumption is it would be accompanied by full-time benefits.
Well, we won't post a salary range, but
we won't either.
Give us permission, tell us when we can put this out there and we'll get it out.
So let me just ask that question, because I didn't create it as a part of this agenda, but we will have to probably post a range. So if it's the will of the council, maybe we should do that in a separate motion, just to keep it clean. So we go back and pass this job description, and then authorize Andrew and myself to advertise it with a particular salary range.
Based on experience?
Based on experience, yeah. So let's take the compensation off the table for a moment. Let's wrestle just with this question and see if we're ready for a vote. And then we'll come back and take it as a separate question to set the salary range, okay? Thank you, Lori, that's a good point. Any other comments or questions? So we have a motion on the table, if I remember correctly, to accept this job description as drafted by Andrew and myself, and we have a second. Any further comment from members of council? Hearing none, go ahead, Andrew.
Did we want to make the change of must pass the background check?
No, we'll just include it in any job posting that we put out. That would be a condition of employment pretty much any time.
You have ability to be bonded in there, that way.
We do, that's right.
That would be part of that.
Yeah, something I actually really appreciate from the former mayor's tenure is the specification of the ability to be bonded. So, okay. Any other comment, question? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the job description for the financial and office administrator, City of Newport, as presented tonight, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. And in answer to your question, Lori, it will take probably a couple of days to post this, and I think it would be appropriate to hold off until I make sure that we get this version posted one place on the website, probably, from which we can let folks know. And we'll post a length of time, probably 2.5, 3 weeks, for folks to be able to turn applications in as well. Okay, so Lori has made a good point, which is, I don't remember, honestly. I think we had talked about 50 to 55 or 50,000 to 60,000 when we talked about posting the earlier version of this. And with the, I guess I would welcome a motion to offer this position public as we announce it publicly or post it publicly, with a proposed range of $50,000 to $60,000 based on experience, and full benefits, of course, as offered to other employees of the city.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Anybody want to say anything about this one before we take action on it?
If it's based on our budget, I'm curious about that. But then I also have notes on what other towns have been listing for similar positions and what the averages are based on that training, so.
I will say that I think we're going to learn a lot by who applies, and this may not be a final decision. We may have to revisit it, but there's a lot we are asking for in this job. It's going to be a pretty key position for us. So the way we budgeted for this was on the assumption that we would have this position throughout the entire fiscal year 25-26, and that we would hire at an appropriate time based on the salary range for a city manager to make sure that we stay roughly within budget. The council may have to come back and revisit that question next fall sometime, but for the moment, we budgeted roughly with the idea that a city manager position wouldn't be offered until probably sometime in the new year, the new calendar year of 2026. So that's how I would think we would make it work based on the budget.
Because the averages I'm seeing for towns that are all populations that are less than ours, which I know that doesn't necessarily equate with roles and responsibilities, but again, echoing that this is quite a workload, but they're all higher than that. So.
Interesting.
Yes, so that just, yeah, maybe noting like we'll negotiate based on experience, but.
Yeah, I think what I would do is name the range and let's see who applies and where we end up.
I concur.
I just am echoing the concerns of the budget. I mean, I think it's really critical that you guys take a close look at what you budgeted and have a plan before you vote tonight on how you're going to ensure that you're going to stay within your budget, because the reason that our city's in the mess that it's in is in large part because that process hadn't been taking place in the past. So
So I will say there are a number of ways to adjust for this, right? There are other places in the budget that could be spent where we could underspend intentionally in order to spend more in this category. So I don't know how this will all work itself out, and we're gonna have to look carefully at it. What I do know is that this is a key position that our staff is absolutely desperate to get filled, and frankly, so am I. So I think the decision to try and go ahead and advertise it and see who we get in the door. And then, so I'll talk a moment about process on the hiring in just a moment after we take action on this. So any other comments about the proposed salary range that we would advertise? Okay, we have a motion on the table to offer this position publicly with a range of $50,000 to $60,000 plus benefits. We have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. So the last question before we move on is, it would be my recommendation, and I've had some initial conversation with department heads, that we would take initial candidates, allow the department heads to look at them. If we have, let's say we have 6 or 8 applicants for this position, and whittle them down to 3 to 4 that they think are qualified candidates and deserve initial interviews. And then we would come to council and ask council to do those interviews. And then assuming the council does those interviews and makes a recommendation, there would be, I suspect, one more step in the process where any final candidates would also have an opportunity to meet with department heads, so the department heads can get a sense of them, and then we'd come back for a final decision. So the goal here is a little bit of a half step on each side between council and staff to make sure that what we end up with at the end of the day is someone who will come in and know that they have the confidence of the department heads that they'll be working for and with. I don't think we need action on that. It's just kind of a proposed way to go at it. Okay? All right. That's a lot, y'all. We've been working toward this for several months, so thank you for your actions tonight. We're coming down the home stretch. The next thing on the agenda, item 11, is public comment. Do we have anybody who signed up for public comment tonight? No. Anybody online need to make public comment? Okay, hearing none. New business. Let's start here at this end, please. Carter, do you have any new business?
No, I just, a while ago, we talked about the 250th commission, anniversary commission, and I reached out to their email and it bounced back, so I sent it again to another email and it bounced back, and I just got a response though. Anyways, so it's exciting. I don't really have any developments other than I've reached a person at the state, which is exciting. Yeah.
So can I just comment about that?
Yeah.
Just so y'all know, Adam told me today, and I didn't know this, that he had been appointed, or maybe I do because I was part of it, I don't remember, to actually help to represent the city in that 250th anniversary process.
That's so funny. Okay,
So,
cool. All right.
well, there's a conversation to be had there when you learn more about what the next steps are.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew, anything from you?
No, thank you.
Okay, John?
No, thanks.
Kevin?
No, thank you.
Jim? No. All right, I have one item under new business, which is an announcement that I want to make on behalf of Allie Howell, who has asked me to let the community know that Wednesday night there will be an education town hall meeting held at Eastside Restaurant from 5:30 to 7 p.m. The speakers are Nikhil Goyal, a UVM sociologist, Grace Miller, North Country Union High School 2020 alumni, Margaret McLean from Rural Schools Community Alliance, and Becca Mandel from Public Assets. And the purpose will be to learn about Governor Scott's and, the education, this is the Secretary for Education, Saunders, right? Do I have that name right? And to explore alternative proposals that are before the state right now. So it's a public meeting. Everyone's invited to help chart the future of Vermont schools, held Wednesday night at the East Side. 5:30 at the East Side. Okay, that's it for new business. Old business. Let's start at the other end. Jim, anything you have?
Just that water bills went out Friday, and don't forget Memorial Day is next Monday,
Yes, and what time is the parade?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, we'll start here.
Right out here.
I'm sorry, pointed the wrong direction.
Yep.
Here in the parking
Goes to
lot?
Gardner Park, then we have a ceremony, and takes an hour and 10 minutes.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Kevin?
No, thank you.
John? Art? Okay, and I have one item here. This comes from conversations with the council that go back 2 years before I was on the council. I just wanted to kind of bring, so I'm considering an old business. This is regarding the Newport Downtown Development Sculpture Project that we did in conjunction with, or in cooperation with, high school students in the advanced art class 2 years ago. The funding for this came from about 2/3 of it. It would be a project that will have cost a little over $20,000. 2/3, almost 3/4 of that funding came from a grant from the Vermont Arts Council, and the rest has been provided by Newport Downtown Development. And the way it worked was we went to the high school and asked them to do designs for sculptures that would be mounted flat. They're metal sculptures that are about 1 inch thick, and they're backlit so that basically the front panel on them is stamped metal, and then they have lights inside the sculpture so that it will backlight it and you'll see the silhouette basically at night. And they were asked to do things around themes about outdoor recreation and outdoor life in Vermont. So there were things, everything from ATVs and mountain bikes to ice fishermen and swimmers. And there's one that looks kind of like a dragon. That's what we're going to call it, a dragon. And there's one that looked like a fox, and there's a barn, and there's a tractor. I don't know, there's a bunch. There were 10 designs that were eventually turned into the designs for these sculptures. The person who really drove this was a volunteer with NDD named Amanda Bauscher, who's a community resident. She and her husband John have done a phenomenal amount of work on this. It has taken a long time to get this close to the finish line. And I expect on Wednesday to begin mounting these with help from a resident of Lowell who's a friend of mine who's an electrician. And so we're going to try and begin mounting them because they've got to have electric to them. The locations, there will be several on the front of the Green Mountain Natural Foods building with Rick's permission. There will be one on the side of the urgent care facility on the Central Street side, so you'll see it coming east on Main Street. That one's going to be a mountain bike. It's really cool. There will be one, it looks like if we can get electric to it, similarly placed on the Newberry building on Seymour, so you'll see it coming the other direction, right, coming up Main Street. There's one on Pick and Shovel. There's a couple more that we had initially had a plan for, and I'm not quite sure where they're going to end up. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this all up now is because they're going to start appearing, and I want the community to know about it, but also because from the beginning there was an intention to put at least one of these sculptures here in the parklet. Initially, the thought was to try and mount it on the back of the kiosk, the electronic kiosk, which didn't exist at that point. And as we've kind of lived into the kiosk design, it's become clear that that's not a very workable design. So one of these is fairly long, probably as long as my hands are spanned, and about this high, and it's a swimmer. It's a silhouette of a swimmer with the mountains and a sunset in the background, or maybe it's a sunrise, I don't know. Anyway, it's pretty neat. And I wanted to mention, this is the only one, I think, that we're talking about mounting to public property in the city of Newport. All the rest we've gotten special permission from the owners of the property. But in this case, I didn't want it to surprise anyone that I'm hoping to work with Tom Bernier about trying to mount it probably on the outside of this building facing the park, the municipal parklet. So it would also be lit up at night and be a part of that kind of overall effect. So I don't know that we even need action. We've kind of taken action on this in the past, but it's so long ago I wanted to bring it back to everyone's attention and just ask if you all have any concerns or questions about this before we go for it. They came out beautifully. They're really quite, I haven't seen one backlit yet, but they're all out on the tables down at the Tasting Center waiting for us to try and mount them this week.
I'm really excited about this. I know that it's been a long time in the making, so it'll be really neat. And the fact that the youth were part of the vision, and anyways. One about this building and getting it mounted is only because now my other job is doing improvements on municipally owned buildings if they're historic. And I know that we have an addition on this building, and so maybe if we could locate it on that portion that is a addition rather than like the historic facade. I don't think that, or I cannot imagine that this grant funding has the long strings of, but if it touches a historic building, but sometimes that can jeopardize the funding. And also B, it just opens up if we're talking about drilling into this facade. I've just learned more than I thought I'd ever know about historical preservation of resources, they call them. And so I just like start to, just because this is such a beaut of a building, and we also, I don't know what's in the walls. But again, working with Tom, I have the confidence. But if I were to suggest that we put it on the newer brick.
So I don't know where the electric is, and that may or may not be possible, but I will be clear that in every instance where we're mounting this on brick, the idea is to mount it into mortar, which can be easily repaired. So there's no instance in which we would drill into the brick itself on any building in town.
Awesome.
And these are all fairly quickly and easily removed if need be.
Sweet. And that's like one of the criteria is it must be undoable in order for you to do. So.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Great.
Yeah, I'm very excited, though, getting this thing over the finish line. I was not counting 2 years ago on being mayor and trying to manage that while I'm trying to help with the installation of these things. So stay tuned. Hope to get it all done soon. I think that's it on all of our business for this evening. So I would entertain a motion to set the next council meeting for our regularly scheduled time on June 2nd, 2025 at 6 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor please say aye.
Aye.
And the motion passes. Thank you for a good evening.